Well, greetings, everybody. Welcome to Mission Control Houston. This is the International Space Station's flight control room. This is basically the nerve center for all the activities that go on aboard the International Space Station. So a team of flight controllers here looks over all the systems around the clock of the crew members that are on board the International Space Station, and each one of the positions in here monitors different systems to make sure they're operating well aboard the complex. So we're real happy to have you guys in Pennsylvania at the Corpus Christi School join us today here in Mission Control, and also we have an expert in one of those systems joining us, Jeff Bazley. Jeff is an expert in basically all of the systems associated with the environmental control, the life support systems aboard the station. So welcome to Pennsylvania, and also welcome, Jeff. Thanks for joining us, and we're ready to go.
My name's Carson. What are some of the decisions the flight director has to make?
Oh, that's probably a good one for Jesse, because he works directly with the flight director all the time.
Yes, the flight director does have a very important job here. As you know, the flight director is kind of the boss when we're in here. One of the big things that he monitors is actually the timing of everything that happens on board the space station. So his job is to make sure that we're meeting the objectives of the day. Sometimes you have to reprioritize things. We never like when things go wrong, but you know, definitely sometimes maintenance doesn't go right, and so then we need to reshuffle everything and make sure everything's correct. And of course, you know, he's in charge if we get into a bind with activities on the system side.
That's a great question.
My name is Max, and what do you think is the most important role in mission control, and why?
Ours.
Yeah,
No.
That's a great question. You know, mission control is a team, so it's hard to pick one role. But you know, I'm a little biased, but I think the systems controllers are the ones that have the most important job. So, of course, we have all the different systems on board: the thermal control, power, attitude control, my system, life support. We've also got command data handling and a way to communicate with the vehicle. There's also the ground controller who kind of makes sure that everything works from the vehicle down here. And so everybody on that list are here 24/7, 365, and so they're very important to operations.
My name is Brent, and do you think we'll have another habitat up and running before the ISS program is over?
And that's a very good question. You know, definitely something that we're thinking about here, different habitats. I know that the ISS is definitely a big promoter of going forward to creating a new habitat. There's a lot of systems on board that we're testing, you know, especially in my system, life support. You know, we have a lot of water systems, a lot of air regeneration systems, and so by testing them in low Earth orbit, while we can actually fix things, but before we go farther, is definitely a big priority, and making sure that we get all the bugs out now.
Hi, my name's Spencer. Working in mission control must be stressful. What do you do to help relieve your stress?
Yeah, that's a great question. You know, the hours definitely play on us a lot. As I mentioned, system controllers, we're here 24/7, 365. So, of course, I'm not here all the time, but you know, different shifts, and the night shifts are a particularly tough one. But to kind of relieve some of that stress, you know, a lot of people do exercise. So I know people in my group, some of them run marathons, so they definitely love to exercise. The big thing is just making sure that you have an activity outside of work that you can do that is important and you can look forward to after work. So for me, I'm on a canine search team with my dog, and so we get to go out and do a lot of training and go out and do things, and so it's definitely something I look forward to out of work.
I think having a balanced lifestyle, even for you guys, when you're done with school every day, you certainly don't think about school all the time, but you do your homework and those type of things. The same thing for folks in here is, when you get off work, you try to get away from work for a little while and unwind and then regroup for the next day. That's a great question.
Hi, I'm Anna Claire. What was your most exciting moment in mission control?
Well, there's lots of exciting moments here. I know personally for me, one of the most exciting ones was actually working console for the first time. The way that we train, we start in the back room, so not here in the Vicar, but in the back room. And so sending your first command to the real vehicle, it's quite an exciting moment. I actually have printed out my desk the first command I sent to the space station. Another exciting thing for me was working my first shuttle mission here in the front room. So I worked STS-134, that's the last flight of Endeavour, and I actually worked the Orbit 1 shift, which is the shift where the shuttle was docking. So it's cool, looking up on the big board and seeing the shuttle come in for the last time for Endeavour, and watching all that. It's definitely a surreal feeling up here.
Hi, my name is Clara, and I would like to know what is Capcom's most important job that they need to do.
Well, Capcom, as you know, is the only one that talks directly to the crew on a day-to-day basis. So one of their most important jobs is actually translating what I tell them into crew speak. So, we talk on the loops with lots of acronyms, lots of system issues that we're working, and then Capcom takes all those and packages it so the crew, we only talk to the crew once about a certain issue, but also making sure that it's clear for the crew. Sometimes we spit out a lot of words and they make sense to us, but it may not make sense to the crew. So that's definitely one of probably the most important job.
Hi, I'm Emma Maurer, and my question is, does mission control everything, or just control some things, or do you control nothing, or do you just monitor all of the time?
That's a good question, because obviously mission control is very integral to what's going on up in space, and I think the crew relies heavily on that, and then Jesse can probably elaborate.
Yeah, you'd probably be amazed to learn that we send thousands of commands every day to the space station between us here as well as our international partners around the world. And so those commands control the systems. Also in Marshall Space Flight Center, they send commands to do the payload operations. So the advantage of doing that from the ground is it frees up the crew to do other activities that we can't do. For instance, payload ops, which I think you see in the background, Don doing payloads. They change out payloads all the time. Also, any maintenance tasks. So if something fails, we need them to put their hands on the hardware and fix it. So by controlling all the systems down here, it gives the crew the ability to get more tasks done. So great question.
Hi, my name is Rube, and how long is the ISS going to be in space?
That's a great question.
Yeah, I think right now we're approved to go through 2020, so that's in 8 years now. However, we're currently working on extending that to 2027, I believe. The big long pole in that is obviously the structure itself. So ISS first flew in 1998, so it's already been up there for several years, and a lot of the systems on board and the structure itself is getting old. So that's one of the challenges we're looking at, is seeing how much margin we still have to be able to get that far. And of course, all the spare parts. We don't like it when things fail, but things do fail. So all the spare parts on board is important.
Hi, my name is Madeline Cardinali. What kind of qualities and previous experiences do you have that you feel really benefit your career working in mission control?
Well, my background is as a chemical engineer. So I received my bachelor's in chemical engineering. And so an engineering, math, science background is very important to working here. There's also the subtle qualities, never taking what's told to you for granted. We always strive to understand the why and the what is going on. Look deeper, and that's all on our own accord. So definitely you need to be forward thinking. Always asking what's the next thing, and delving deeper on your own into whatever you're looking at. So your science experiments in school. Definitely trying to understand it more. It definitely helps.
That's a great question.
Hi, my name is Patrick, and my question is, who started Mission Control and what year was it?
That's a good question.
Yeah, well, it goes way back. Actually, the very first Mission Control was not even here. It was down in Florida when the first United States astronauts were launched. And then there was a decision made to build this facility. This room has been changed from what it was in the early Gemini days. Gemini was when 2 astronauts flew on capsules, and that was when it first opened. It was back in this room back in 1964, 65 time frame, during the early days before we even went to the moon. And it's transitioned a little bit for Space Shuttle, and then now most recently to the room that you see here, which is much more modernized with better technology in terms of the consoles, and human factors were involved in that, right, Jesse? That they took that into account because they knew that flight controllers would be in here for long periods of time, as opposed to what they were, back in the early days for long missions like this space station, right?
Yes, that's true. We're also looking forward. So we have in testing right now the next mission control. So what that's going to look like for the Orion project, and that's definitely continuing to modernize the system, but also the human factors part of it. And we've learned things here in Figure 1 that we can improve on, and so we're improving those. It's definitely changed over the years, and it's amazing to look at the pictures around here, what it used to look like, and what it now looks like.
Yeah, great question.
That is a great question.
Hi, my name is Elizabeth, and what do you think is the coolest feature on the ISS?
The coolest feature, well, I definitely say from the crew's perspective, it's the cupola. So the cupola is basically a bay of windows. It faces the Earth. So you've probably seen a lot of the really cool pictures that they've sent down. Also the cool video from sunrise, sunset, during the day, even during the night. They've taken video of night passes. And so it's definitely cool looking out the window. My perspective, I'm a systems guy, so I have interesting modules for systems, but that's obviously not something that other people find interesting.
Hi, my name is Kira, and my question is, about how many times a day does Mission Control lose connection with the ISS?
That's actually a great question. We have an area called the zone of exclusion, and that's usually about every 90 minutes that we lose comm with the vehicle. It's usually about 10 minutes long. That gives us a time to take a break while the crew continues. The interesting thing is that we can close that gap if we need to. So usually during critical ops, so say a vehicle's coming, robotics, EBAs, things like that, we can ask the network to give us more time. And so at that time, we usually have all the time that we want, but we still have what's called a handover time, which is about 20 seconds, where our antennas need to go from one angle to another to pick up another satellite. So those are actually fairly common. Good question.
Hello, my name is Anna Carmina. How do you get the medications to the astronauts?
That's a great question. Obviously the medication is provided via visiting vehicle, so it's on board. We don't in real time send it to them. We do have a console called the surgeon console. They're the flight surgeon for the crew, so they know the crew. They've worked with the crew for many years as they've gone through training, and so they know what the crew needs for different ailments that they might face on board.
Hi, my name is Cariel. What kind of experiences have you had in mission control?
Well, yeah, as I already mentioned, I have I did come in time to work a few shuttle flights as a ISS support. I the biggest thing now is just increment operations. So I get to support usually about 1 week every couple months that I come in here and work with the crew and also as increment lead, as actually the increment lead for the last crew before Dan Burbank came home. There's a lot of planning that goes into each of these flights, and so it's definitely an experience that you get to do when you come here.
Hi, my name is Lauren. How has mission control changed over the years?
That is a good question.
Yeah, that's kind of what we were talking about earlier. So it's changed quite a bit from over the years, from the early days of Apollo, even before that, to what you're looking at now, right?
Yeah, the interesting thing is right above us is called Picker 2, which is the old Apollo Picker. That's preserved. It's a historical site, and so you get to take a view of what it used to look like. And this room actually looked exactly like that before it transitioned over to Space Station. And even Space Station, we've had 2 flight control rooms. So we used to be in what's called Blue Picker before we outgrew that as the station got bigger, and then we transitioned over here.
Yeah, the Mission Control Center is very, very large. You're looking at one room, but there's a flight control room, like Jesse said, above us. There's one down the hall that was used for space shuttle and will probably transition to a future spacecraft like Orion that Jesse mentioned, the next generation of human space transport that NASA's helping develop or is developing. So it's a very big building that houses very different kinds of flight control, depending on what actually is going on. And of course, if there's training going on for another mission, right, you're always doing simulations for future flights as well.
Yeah, I'm actually in training to learn another system. So I'm learning our internal thermal control system. So it's always evolving. You get to grow and learn more things as you go through your career.
So here's a good example of somebody who's continuing to learn even though he's already out of school. So you guys can look forward to that too.
Yeah, exactly.
How will you get Orion into space?
That's a good question. There's 2 vehicles right now that we're working on. So the original Orions, so the first couple flights, I believe, will actually be flown on a commercial vehicle. So the Atlas launch vehicle. As it transitions, we're going to go to what's called a space launch system. Shuttle derived, uses shuttle hardware, and it's a new vehicle that will allow us to go farther. It's about the size, I believe, of a Saturn V. So it's a very big vehicle.
What would you do if an astronaut was like life-threatening sick?
Yeah, that's always that's actually something that we have plans for. That on board the crew does have 2 of the return vehicles. They're called the Soyuz, the Russian vehicle, and if we had a crew member get critically ill, we can always bring them home and land in Russia and get them to more medical support. Of course, his crewmates would need to come home with him because then we don't want to leave them with no escape vehicle. So we do have that plan, and we can execute it if we needed to. Luckily, we've never gotten there yet.
All right.
How many times does the ISS go around the world in a day?
That's a good question. The ISS actually orbits the Earth every 90 minutes, which I believe that equates to 15 orbits in a day, something about that. And so we track it, and every day they go around the Earth. Every 90 minutes they get a sunrise and a sunset. So it's definitely different than what you have on the ground here.
Yeah, the space station is traveling about 17,000 miles per hour, so that's about for you guys, it's about 5 miles every second. So it travels very fast at what's known as orbital velocity, and it's about 250 miles above the Earth right now. So as Jesse said, you know, once every hour and a half, it goes all the way around the Earth.
Hi, my name is Mara, and I was wondering how someone got assigned to a council in mission control.
Well, that's a great question. You know, I came in, I was actually hired as an ECLSS, so life support officer. It used to be that you'd be hired within that group, so a specific, towards a specific console. Now we've actually transitioned more towards generic systems controllers. So when you get hired in here, you get to experience each of the different groups and basically provide your recommendation of what group you want to work for. And you know, sometimes that's not always possible, but you know, we definitely like to allow people to have the opportunity to work for whatever position they want, which there's lots of them here. That's a good question.
Hi, my name is Liam, and I wanted to know, what's the hardest task you ever had to face?
The hardest task I've ever had to face. You know, the simulated tasks, which we always get put through the ringer in a simulation. But I think in real time, I think the hardest thing I had to do was actually come in. I wasn't on call for a flight that we had Russian computer problems that caused a rapid depress to be enunciated on board. And this was actually while the crew was in what we call camp out. So they were in the airlock down at 10.2 psi. And so I was asked to come in to help the on-console team basically reconfigure all our systems after that. And the challenge there was the mixed config we were in, because as I mentioned, the crew was at 10.2 in the airlock. So there were a lot of different things we had to consider and work through.
Will there be other, have there been thoughts about other ISSs around orbiting other planets?
I believe there actually has been. There are currently talks about putting one, I think it's past the moon. There's a gravity gradient spot that actually works for putting a space station there. It'll actually provide basically a destination for the Orion on its way to deep space. As far as the ISS hardware, I don't believe there's actually any plan for a similar to the ISS. It would be an advanced version of the space station.
Yeah, that's the beauty about the space station that we have now, is that we're learning how to live long duration time periods at this altitude, because when we go out further out, obviously it means it's going to take longer to get back. So you definitely need to know how to live for long duration stays in space, because your trip will become much longer, and that's one of the things we're doing at the International Space Station right now. So those are great questions, and we really enjoyed visiting with everybody today in Pennsylvania, and you guys keep studying hard, and hopefully you'll make your way right here to this room and join Jesse along with other flight controllers as part of the team here in Mission Control. So thanks a lot for joining us, everybody. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.